Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of Wake Up with Giants Radio. I'm going to introduce my guest co-host, and I say guest because although they are regular members of the League of Giants, regular co-founders of the League of Giants, Alyssa Ann and Dr. Rachel Smart are not normally on the radio show with us because of our timing. So we have moved to this evening, this Wednesday evening, to tape our radio show tonight so that Alyssa Ann and Dr. Rachel Smart can join in. So we're going to go right into our centering. We're all going to close our eyes, sitting up nice and straight and tall. We're going to breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. I show up today in calm, in peace, in vulnerability, as a leader, as a student, and as a teacher to make a difference in 100 million lives. I sit in my vulnerability today to learn about stress, moving forward from stress from two amazing giants. Alyssa?
I show up today with an open heart, leading with love, with the ability to teach and to learn and to impact 100 million lives.
Beautiful. Rachel?
I show up tonight to help 100 million lives to realize ways to navigate stress, but to be able to be clear in thinking, to be able to bring up things that I have forgotten about, to help serve someone out there that needs hope, needs direction, needs clarity, and show up in a place of love and great life lessons and a full heart to give.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, we're going to say hello to all of our social media friends. Nicole is here. She says hello. And we're going to start in as if we're going live on the radio show. I'm going to pretend that we've gone live right now, and I'm going to lead us in. Hello and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. This is episode 25, and our topic today is how to cultivate self-confidence. Nope, it's not. I just said yesterday, last week's radio topic. Good thing we're not real. Good thing we're on social media and I can cut that out. I'm going to start all over. Start that all over. That's funny. All right. Hello and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. Today, our topic is how to harness stress and embrace a life of joy and wellness. And I'm so excited to be joined here in the studio today with the smart doctor, Dr. Rachel Smart, and with Alyssa Ann, the adventure queen. I am Lady Luck. And we are glad to have you all join us today. Now, I'm going to jump right in, ladies, and I'm going to be the first to admit right now that I am so glad that you're joining us today because you are both the queens, the experts in harnessing stress and finding joy and wellness in that stress. And I'll admit right now, right off the hop, that I am not. I am a workaholic. I stress myself out. I overwork. So I'm going to move it right to you, Rachel, to start us in on stress. What stress does to our body. Can you talk to us about that first?
Well, yeah, I think this is good because we all have stress. You know, we have to harness it, I guess, because there's no life that has a day that does not have the stress. And we have good stress and we have bad stress or challenging stresses, but we have to know that it's not all bad, but it's a good stresses that come in to help us to protect us so we don't get out of line. You know, we know when we have lots of headaches or we got some health challenges, we got to work on balancing that out. But good stress is to help give us focus. I know I just got off doing some big things for another event that we had, and we focus, we are keen in our sight, we have energy to rise and meet the challenges. But we have a challenge when it gets beyond the tax of we start having health decline, we start spinning and buffering and start eating, we start plummeting, and it can really affect some things. And I know for me, I had been through a lot in my life. I had navigated raising 4 children. At the time my husband had terminal cancer, he was given just 6 months to live. And I had been a high stress because I had to be. So sometimes stress, you just have to reach it up and pull it up and then do it for a long time. And I had deteriorating bone health. Osteoporosis, but in 2 years I fixed that. It came right back up. And building that out after my husband got 8 extra years, but I had to take time to build it back up. And so I love the topic of how to harness stress, but sometimes we have to be reeled for a long time, and it's just holding the whole ship up. So, but stress unchecked can create, what I study as a naturopath, 80% of major illnesses come from unchecked stress. And we know, I was teaching a class on stress a while back and realized it can affect the way we think. We could actually damage brain cells. We could become dumber. And also it changes the shape of our bodies. We have a lot of the belly fat it's a sign of stress and toxins as well. So.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up 2 things. And one is that most times, or not most times, but oftentimes when we're experiencing stress, it's because we're giving of ourselves to someone else. We're helping other people. We're maybe nurturing someone back to health. We're giving and we're stretching ourselves in so many different ways. And that's why we're experiencing stress. And I love that you recounted your own experience of coming back to yourself and having to heal yourself because your own body became ill while you were caring for your husband and helping him to get better and heal his own body. And I think that a lot of times we forget that we can't do all of those things and take care of everyone else if we let our own self-care go and if we let ourselves to get stressed out. So I love that you pointed that out. Alyssa, I see you nodding your head. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, I can on so many levels. I know when you're in that fight or flight mode, you get that dump of cortisol, and it gives you that ability, if you can harness it. If you had a wild tiger coming at you, you suddenly have superhuman strength and you can get out of there. But in today's society, we still get that. We can get it just from thoughts, we can get it from emotions, and we can trigger that within our own bodies. But where does it stay for us now? Because we live in, obviously, these times are a little bit uncertain, but we certainly are living in a time in history where we have it easier than other people. Do you know what I mean? We don't have predators bigger than us and things like that. So I think being mindful and being aware of your body going into stress and actually feeling it, and then going, well, how can I harness this, and can I turn this into something positive? And I've certainly gone down the negative ways. There were certainly times when I would come from a really stressful shift when I was in the police force, and I would come home and drink a bottle of wine, because I just needed to decompress and come down. But what I didn't probably realize, and I wasn't conscious of, was how bad that was for my health. So it wasn't until I had that awareness that, and nothing ever went away. That was the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Especially with alcohol or distractions or numbing, the problem is still there.
It is. We're just masking it, right? We're masking the problem. Yeah. And when Rachel is talking about something resonated that you both said, when Rachel's talking about our body composition changing and us getting stress belly and having things like that happen, our body composition starts to change in that way also because our eating habits start to change when we're stressed. We start to eat more comfort food. We start to eat more sugar, more salt, and we start to crave those things because we feel like they're keeping us going, right? They're comforting us in the time of stress. It's what we reach for. It's easy, and our body craves it, and that contributes to that belly weight coming on us, and it's the stress hormones and all that concentrates it on our bellies. But and I almost going to lose my point there where I was going with that. But when you're talking about coming home and masking that and not knowing that you're making it worse and making your body worse, I can relate to being in that time of stress and reaching for those foods and having the belly fat start to come on, but also reaching for those foods and masking the stress and actually making other things worse, actually making other ailments in my body worse by reaching for those foods at the same time. And it's so funny. I once was told that the condition that I have is exacerbated by stress, exacerbated by salt, and exacerbated by sugar. But when I was in times of stress, I was reaching for salt and sugar. And so it was this cycle, right? It was a cycle of getting into stress, reaching for those things, then having the condition be worse, and then be forced to be down in bed for 2 or 3 days because of the condition, and then coming back and then just doing the whole thing over again. Now you're stressed out because you're trying to catch up from when you were down and not being able to get out of that cycle. Rachel,
what's a cycle? And it's so
yeah.
alarming. It made me think about something that I have a friend that he did my marble slab, and he has some chickens, and so he told me a story about his chickens that the chickens lay eggs every day. So he go out to the chicken coop and he gets an egg every day I got one or two from each, I guess one for every chicken he has. And then one night something got in that chicken coop at night, that stress, something came in, and came up and the next morning and all the feathers were everywhere, and they had a big stressed chicken. And guess how long it took the chickens to lay eggs after that stress night?
How long?
Give any idea?
I don't know, a month, a week? I have no idea at all.
It was 2 months.
Wow.
So, and then I remember, I thought, we have the stresses that, the stress meaning, a bad relationship or a festering one, or life happens you can't control. But if it shows that on a chicken, I mean, we're not chickens, but it can let us know that our productivity, our tax, I mean, I'm all into nutrition. So it's like, if we don't often fill the tank before we need the stress comes upon us, because stress takes away the nutritional bank. And so that we have it already emptied. Like I just met a lady yesterday, was a client of mine, and she's a young girl and has Crohn's disease, and she has always stressed, a lot of uncertainty in her family life, but she doesn't have any nutritional bank that's full. And so we're starting from ground zero, and she's very serious Crohn's disease, and she's only like 20. So we start working on filling the tank up, and doing things slowly, but she has to have a way to manage the stress, because we're meant to manage stress. But like you said, Alyssa, it's not like we're being chased all the time by unneeded deadlines. We're a workaholic or trying to get somewhere. And I remember when the COVID happened, I got home and everything was just all the news and everybody was all stressed. And I knew I could go to go in, Melissa, start eating away or starting to, worry and fester and make it all worse. So I knew I wanted to do some home repair. So I went over to this one room that I had not, that needed to be done. And there's a little wallpaper that I've always thought about getting off, and I just ripped it. I just ripped it because I had to do it. So the whole year I remodeled my house under the stress, and I had something to focus on that was positive. So I've learned in the years, not always been good at it. And a lot of stress has been in my life, of course, but I've learned sometimes it's just to get focused on something else so you can better manage it without eating it away or causing other problems that are going to be hard to deal with as well.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. Thank you, Rachel. I love the idea of shifting the energy of that stress and the energy of even the thing that we might want to mask it with something that's more healthy. That's amazing. And something that's not food, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should be exercising and drinking the water, or having a good friend, going for a walk or reading a book, but sometimes it's just get angry at something and to take it away from the thing that's stressing you, to worry and reel, that could be actually getting something accomplished that's good, not that you can't control the news and things that are happening out there. So
yeah, and just even that tangibility, just having something tangible to do, and even if you had a this is why it's so good, a punching bag and things like that, or primal screaming or things like that. It's actually really good to release it from your body. So it doesn't get stuck. It doesn't remain and stay there, and then you're acting from it all the time. So just sometimes that physical activity.
Well, even though too, when I try to do my bills one day a month, I just set a Saturday aside, and I used to get so stressed about it, and I'd think, I don't want to be doing this on a Saturday. But I just started turning in some really calm music or something to listen to. It just changed it. It just kind of made me put a little candle on, it kind of made me put something else into the thing I didn't want to do. And, change something that you don't like with something you do like. And that can help you one tool to navigate the stress a little bit.
Okay, I love that. That's amazing. Oftentimes, I mean, I'm thinking in my own experience, oftentimes when I'm that stressed, it's hard to get motivated to get out and be active. You know what I mean? If I'm running and I'm tired and I'm feeling the stress pile on, I'm not having much energy, which is why I'm reaching for the sugary foods and the salty foods, right? It's hard to get motivated to go because I'm not an outdoors person to begin with. I know Alyssa is an outdoors person and Rachel gets out all the time as well. But I'm not a natural outdoors person. I wouldn't say I have to force myself, but I have to be motivated to be out there. So I find it hard to motivate. What can you tell our listeners about motivating ourselves to actually do that? Get active and get outside when you're feeling that way.
I have some go-to podcasts, and I told you to chain link things together. So I like to learn, find out what your hot button is for those who are listening. Find something you like to do and attach it to something you don't like to do. So I get a friend, I get a podcast, and knowing that once you get into motion, there's some things that you can motivate. You motivate yourself by getting into action. That's how you get motivated. You're never going to feel like doing it. You start doing it, then you feel like it. That's one thing. So find out what you like to do and attach it to something else. It makes it a lot easier. And I find a friend or a podcast or something to learn, or, inviting somebody that you want to serve or whatever to go with you. Or sometimes you just don't have to like it all. You just have to do it because your body will shift. When you start exercising, the hormones are going to change in your brain, and you're going to get more oxygen. You're just going to feel better. And I think the exercise is one of the biggest ways to get your mind right, because it switches things around that you can handle the problems better. It's just part of the nature of movement, of getting things in motion.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing, Rachel. Yeah, I think finding the joy, Melissa, I think just finding something that you love to do and something that you love to be. So it doesn't have to always be outside. Like, my girlfriend, since this current COVID thing, has been running her Zoom classes online now. And that just brought that all back into my life again. And I'm thrilled about it because it absolutely lights me up and I don't have to leave the house to do it. So I think just sometimes connecting with something like that, like Rachel said, a podcast or listening to something or Audible, or I think there are so many things that you want to do in your life, but you put them off and you go, I haven't got time for this, or I'm in this state and I can't. Well, maybe in times of calm is when you then write that list, because we've all established that when you're in this state of stress, you don't have clarity, you don't have clearness of thinking. So when you're in a state of calm, write down all the things you want to learn, write down the things you want to do, the things you want to try. And then when all that stress is coming up, go and get that list and go, okay, what can I do today?
I absolutely love that, because you're right. When you're in that state of stress, you can't think of what you're like. You sit down, you mindfully watch a TV show, or you go on Facebook or on and any social media, and you just let the time pass and you don't think about the other things. And it's funny that you say that, because a few times I've noticed where I've done that, I've flopped down, and then all of a sudden an hour has passed and I got up and I, went and did some other things that had to get done. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that whole hour I could have been doing this or listening to that or reading this. And at the time I was just so I just needed to relax that I wasn't thinking about those things. And I love that you say that, writing the list out and having it there and having it handy for when you need it, for when you can't think about it.
But I like what you said, Melissa, is that sometimes you just need to go take a little nap. I do that. And really, it's okay. We don't have to shame ourselves. We can go rest. We can go, part of resting is helping give clarity, and just to sometimes go to bed the weekend, to take the weekend off. And I've learned to compress that time. I say, I'm going to have a day to be sad, or the weekend, I'm just going to let me grinding it, whatever. But then I
Mm-hmm.
make that time to get some rest. That's amazing. It's just as good as exercise at times, just to gain perspective and just to, recharge things up. And we should not, feel like we have to always be busy all the time too. So there's a balance.
Yeah, and that sort of leads into self-care, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that ability, especially with being mothers, is we can't give from an empty cup. When your kids are at you and wanting things and you're so depleted, you're just not capable. So sometimes you need to go, okay, I need some time, and I'm going to go and lock the bathroom door, and I'm going to run a bath and just soak and just relax for an hour and a half. And in that time, I'm not going to feel shame about this, because by me building me up and me adding to me, it means I can then give.
Absolutely. One of the hardest lessons I learned when I was recovering from concussions, from a couple of concussions, was the idea of taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon. And I recall my my physiotherapist saying to me, she specializes in concussions, and she said to me, I want you to take a 1 hour nap every day. So if you have to be in front of your computer, say for 4 hours in the morning, when you're done that 4 hours, then I want you to go take a 1 hour nap, and then you can go back to it for another 4 hours, but no more than 4 hours without taking that nap. And I looked at her and I was like, do you know what I have to get done in a day? I have 2 kids. I have to do this. I run 2 businesses on top of this, and I just rhymed it all off, everything that I did in a day. And I laughed at her and I said, you want me to sleep for an hour in the middle of the day? I was incredulous, absolutely incredulous. And we worked through it. I mean, she was like, okay, well, just try. Even if you don't sleep, even if you just close your eyes, I just don't want you on screens. I don't want you thinking about anything. I don't want you on screens. And we eventually got to the point where it was more like a 20-minute nap. The nap actually happened, but it was 20 minutes, not an hour. We compromised. But in that process of compromising and figuring out what I could actually get in, like what I could do, and what still felt healing and felt like I had recovered, in that process, I really began to see the importance of that rest and closing your eyes and not having anything else, and not meditation either. She didn't want me doing anything. And because I suggested that, I'll just go do a 20-minute meditation. And she said, no, you're still listening to somebody tell you how to meditate, right? Or you've still got your thoughts going. You're still following something. I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to follow anything. I want you to close your eyes and lay there and sleep, or just nothing, do nothing. And it was just such a foreign concept to me.
Well, it's so important to be able to take that time. And I think, just looking at it differently, the only time you really heal is when you're sleeping. And I think I have a book that I read once. I mean, not once, I go back to it often. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. And it shows you that we can get a lot more done if we take breaks. So 90 minutes, and then you focus on 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that to rest, or 90 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes rest. You got to go back to do the more productive work when you did have your rest, because you get 4 hours and then it just kind of, you're spinning around and maybe not getting as clear of the work done, but taking that 30-minute window of time to do something, or an hour block, and then do something different, take a break. So that's something to deal with stress, is to not keep grinding all day long and never have breaks. It's important to have an hour break, but you could do 20 minutes or something, or just shifting the different type of activity could be a way to soften the load of the stress, overload.
Absolutely. And listening to your body, really, because I'll tell you, I don't always just lay there. Sometimes I do take the nap. Sometimes it's 20 minutes and sometimes it's a half an hour. I listen to what my body needs, but I do make sure that midway through the day, I go and do that. And actually, I have a friend who was recovering from a heart attack, a massive heart attack. And that was one of the holistic healing prescriptions that his doctor gave him at the time is that every day on his lunch, he went and did a half an hour shavasana. We call it a relaxation, where he didn't necessarily nap, but he laid down and rested his body away from everything for half an hour every day at lunch. And that was the medical prescription from his doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you look at the Europeans, they always take the long naps. They take months off for the summer vacation. They know how to be able to manage and to recharge themselves. So we might need to take some lessons from others that seem to have better health, and also they get a lot done. They get the stuff done that they need to get done as well.
And I'm just reading the comment here. Hugh is saying at the meetings he goes to, he goes outside. He brings people, at the meetings he goes to outside, people bring their dogs and he walks them around while they interact with the group. That's amazing. So Hugh will help those people at the meetings while they're outside and get some exercise himself by walking the dogs around. So he has to be there anyway, and he's found a way to get active. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing, isn't it? A good reminder if you have a pet.
Mm-hmm.
Just for that exact thing. But they are just the biggest de-stressor, aren't they? Pets just teach you how to be present. Oh, they are. And they have that just ability to calm you. And just, especially when a cat comes and sits on you and you can't move anyway. And your dog, they just love on legs. They just want to be cuddled. And then again, Melissa, to get you outside, you might need a dog because they demand to be walked every day. My dog, especially because we've had like 5 weeks of solid rain. I think we've had 3 days that it hasn't rained. Yesterday afternoon, it was hailing, and he just runs around the house with his lead in his mouth. So the kids just have to pull him up and down sometimes because we're just like, we can't physically take you outside right now. It's, we've got lightning and thunder and it's too dangerous. But yeah, just.
What if you didn't like animals? Some people don't like dogs. That would make them stressed.
Yeah, I know. And I was just gonna say I'm actually allergic to dogs. So we don't have one. I'm allergic to cats and dogs. So we don't have any animals here to, paw at me to get me outside. But we do have a comment here, and I'm going to go to Ryan's question. He says, yeah, your body really does know. How do we listen to that? My mind takes over, and often I regret working my guts out. So he's asking, how do we listen when our body's telling us to stop and we've got work to do and we know that we think we can just keep working through? How do we listen to that? Does anyone want to take that?
I don't know. I just go as your energy starts to drain. You can tell you slump, the energy goes down and you go, I've got to recharge myself. And I push ahead is only going to cause the problems. And I teach in my courses that disease, I'm all about, preventing the sneaky diseases. And so if you look at an iceberg, you have a lot of things developing for years and years and years, and I'm pushing things down, pushing your kids away, not taking the vacation. And then you may feel that stress, that you're tightening the shoulder, your jaw gets tight, your energy's drained, you're not sleeping well, all those things. If you keep pushing, a lot of times it's fear. I know that through helping clients and my husband. I mean, there's a lot of things that develop through the years, and then you don't see the symptom or the diagnosis until years, or a lot of problems happen. And then a lot of it's terminal illness. So we have to know it's our bodies tighten up with stress, headaches, the digestion problems, constipation, tightening up on how we digest food is often how we digest life. And if we are very stressed, we're not digesting well. I can tell you a lot of stories about some of my clients, but some just do not have bowel movements. I mean, that sounds because they're not digesting life, and it's holding the place is your gut is holding that in to not to deal with it. And it's going to come out in a different way. It just manifests differently based on genetic tendencies, but it doesn't have to be that way. We can tip the scale in our best favor or hold back on things that may be in our gene pool, but not expressed if we don't play up them with listening to our body. So I hope that Ryan answered it for you. You should listen to the energy and the tightness and how you're digesting food, and then how you're sleeping as well. Maybe your wife could tell you that you need to stop.
Yeah. I'll tell you, This might be opposite, but I'll tell you, Ryan, what keeps me listening to my body in some of those ways is knowing what happens to my body when I don't listen. So it's almost like a deterrent for me. And I'll give you like just simple examples. I'm gluten-free. I have a gluten sensitivity. Now I can go out and cheat and eat gluten, but I know how my body is going to feel afterwards. I'm going to have a headache. I'm going to have a sore stomach. I'm going to be sluggish the next day. I'm not going to be able to think. My digestion is going to be off. And I'm going to feel almost hungover the next day. And so what I sit back and think is, okay, I need to listen to my body because I know how it felt or how it will feel if I don't listen to what my body needs. And I think it's the same way now with sugar and with salt. I know what's going to happen to me, especially if I'm stressed out. If I eat sugar and I eat salt, my condition is going to be exacerbated and I'm going to be down for the count. I'm going to have symptoms and I'm going to be down for the count. So how bad do I really want that? Do I want to feel that? Do I want to feel that way? And that has me listening. Those consequences and knowing how my body feels if I don't follow the healthy routine and do the healthy things, that keeps me in check.
And that just made me think of that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what we do?
Yeah, we do.
As in we go, I'm so tired, but I've got so much to do still. I'll just keep going through it. Yet we know you're not giving it your best capacity. You're not giving it what you're capable of. And if you just went and had a nap or you just went and had a walk, you could actually reset and come back and tackle that with a clear mind and well rested.
We could call Hugh. Hugh's our friend. He's always doing such great insight with our tribe. And I called Hugh. I could just pick on him. I called him, and just amazing perspective of how he dealt with life stress and turned it around to love deeper, and just a encourager, a person of faith and of kindness, so a lot of things we can turn things around. But sometimes we have to just go through it and, get it to our bodies have to respond. And then we have to learn, like you learned, Melissa, not just by figuring it out, but by trial and error. And then sometimes it just catches up to you. And then you go, I'm either inspired or I am desperate. So either those two things usually are going to come to help somebody change something, but it's about pain. And I put things on my refrigerator. I put my high days. Yeah, I don't feel bad. Well, if I have a real bad day, I do have my little chocolate chip mint ice cream I do like, but I do know, like you, Melissa, I'm gonna have to pay for that because it doesn't do well the next day. But I do occasionally have that thing, but it shouldn't be a common thing. It should be, I'd say 90% you should be on pretty much. And then of course, no one is on all the time. We're going to do this. We're not the best of us, not straight line, or there's something wrong with us too, right?
Yeah. And it's not just food. It's you mean if we start to feel run down, if we're starting to feel tired and starting to feel like we're overworking and we're pushing and we're doing too much, how far can we push? Like knowing that you've pushed in the past and such has happened, that stops you to think, do I want that to happen again? Do I want to be in that place again? Or am I going to back off now, rest, have a 20-minute nap or a half an hour nap, and know that I can move forward healthily and I can de-stress a little bit, or go out and have that half an hour walk, or, walk the dog or whatever it is, and know that that's going to help de-stress my body so that that thing doesn't happen again, whatever it is, whatever happens to you, or however your body manifests stress.
Well, I think vacations are good too. We always forget we go for a walk, but sometimes we just need to take off. You know how you ever go, you have too long of not having a vacation, you can tell your mind just gets negative. You start getting complaining and you start seeing things in negative ways. And we have to train ourselves to see things in positive ways. I remember once I was walking to my daughter's room when she was in high school, and she had this picture of, she had found it. I don't know if she had bought it somewhere, but it was like looking on a pier, and the water was coming up on that pier. And I thought it looked scary to me, because I was thinking in my mind that looked like water was coming up to engulf. I don't think that was a very calming picture, but I just asked her, I go, Michelle, why do you like that picture on your wall? And she says, because it's like the water's receding. And so I was seeing it coming at me, so we have to change the way we see it. And it's trained. You train yourself and you train your children. We can influence our spouses and our friends to, when I coach people, I always say, if I hear words, I'm going to say, try that again. If you say, I'm going to try to do something, let's just fix that word right away. Or I can't do it, or I'm not, or gossip, or I was on a call today. We're doing a big event coming up, and we're talking about there's some things that were a little bit hard to navigate, and we just said we're not going to put energy there. We're going to put all our energy focused on where we're going, not some of the things that may be some problems that we can't solve. So it's just a process of just working our way through it and then figuring things out when they don't work, and then asking good questions instead of pouring through.
Absolutely. I love the idea of changing your mindset and moving into a different perspective and a more positive mindset. I think when you said those two perspectives, I would have thought the water coming up too. And when you said that, it made me think, yeah, one is a positive mindset and one is a negative mindset. So we all are constantly having to move into that positive point of view. I love that. Alyssa, what is that?
Oh, sorry. Did you ever say you went to a psychology class in college and they have pictures of it's either the witch or the young girl, or it's the vase, or it's it's just the way you choose to see it, because you can see it many ways.
And we can change that perception though. And that's the beauty of practicing gratitude and practicing journaling, excuse me. And in our journaling, reframing our thoughts into positive thoughts. That's the beauty of practicing strategies like that, because we can start to reframe to a point where our perspective will change. Well, if we're in a negative mindset, that's the one we're going to see. And when we start to practice all of those strategies, eventually, when we practice them long enough, we'll start to just automatically see that positive. We won't have to reframe anymore. It will just automatically come to us. And the same thing will happen with those photos. You'll automatically just start seeing something different. It's incredible how the mind works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, what you focus on, isn't it? So I know that, when I was coming out of my marriage and leaving my job and everything was I was so overwhelmed. If I focused on things that frustrated me, that was all I saw. That was suddenly everything was around me was frustrating me. But once I changed my focus to gratitude and was able to reframe it and go, well, what is in this that I can be grateful for in this moment? And of course, the more I looked, the more I saw. You start off with one, and often that first, 1, 2, or 3 are the hardest things. And then once you're in that mindset of, okay, well, what else am I grateful for? And suddenly there's an abundance of things. Even if you just start with your body, even if you just start that, I don't even have to think about breathing. How cool is that? Just all these growing a baby is a great example. You actually didn't have to do anything. Your body did it all. Like it's an incredible process when you think about it.
Absolutely. I love that. And Hugh says anything negative has to have a positive. It does. It's true. And so why do we always go to the negative? Why do we always see the negative side in it and not the positive?
Well, that comes down to having that awareness to try not to label things and not to see things as good or bad. Just see them as experiences, or what's an opportunity that I can learn from, and know that, as we talk about all the time with the universe, that it's bringing everything to you, that you can manifest the life you want. You get to make choices. And you can pull that towards you, or you can repel it as well. So by what you concentrate on.
Well, I think too is like you have to figure out who are you listening to, what are you reading, because what we can control, and not always control. We have to work on a lot of things that we can't control, but there's a lot of things we can control. So I think looking at some solutions and looking at the routines and that we have set up, or if we need to set them up and I find in the morning are a good time to get something going in the right direction. set up some foundational tools that you know that are going to get you moving the right direction. And I like to call them bookends. So the morning got some routines, the night do a couple things so that you kind of have some anchored of some things that can keep you moving up and listening, reading some good, little 10 minutes here, a little, I used to listen to cassettes all the time, but now there's like podcast or reading a good book or praying in scriptures or whatever you choose to do, but they can be able to help lift that and bring the gratitude or perspective. And then, you got to control those negative people if they're not. Sometimes you have people in your life that you just can't control, but you have to set boundaries around.
Yeah.
But then you get some help. I think sometimes you need some help to learn how to say, I'm unable to do that. I have learned, because I used to always say yes to everything, and now I learned to say, thank you so much for asking me. I've got a lot of things that I have already in the schedule, but ask me later, and so grateful for you. And, just learning how to say no.
That's definitely powerful, isn't it? I think because everything is an exchange of energy, isn't it? So what you're allowing in. So I'm at that stage of my life now where I'm going, even with a Facebook friend request, for example, I'm going, are you going to contribute to my life? So I go in and I look through all their stuff for quite a while and go, well, are you going to be a contribution to my life? And if you're not, I just go, no, thanks, decline.
I like that.
Yeah, I do the same. I vet every single Facebook request, and look through it and say, and not just are you going to contribute to my life, but what energy are you bringing into my space? I actually look through past posts and see what kind of things they post. Is it inspirational? Is it positive energy? Is it going to lift people up, lift me up as I read it? Or am I going to read it and not be in a good energy? Not be in a good energy reading it. I absolutely review that and make sure that that's not coming in front of me. And we have control over that, right?
Yeah,
Ryan,
we do.
Ryan says, I wondered why you didn't accept my request.
Oh, Ryan, that's not true.
Hugh always asked me this question. He said, constantly asking myself, who told you that? Where did they get their information and who told them that? And Hugh asks me that a lot. And I love that he asks those questions because it brings things into perspective for us. It brings us into ourselves to really decide what we want in front of us and what is true and good that's in front of us. And, how to decipher what we bring into our space and what we don't bring into our space.
What is true and what's not true. Because a lot of this thing is true to us, but doesn't mean it's true facts.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to say something earlier. My mind just went blank. Oh, I know. When Rachel was talking about the bookends. And so for the longest time, for years now, I've been meditating every morning. I get up and before I start my work, I do a half an hour meditation. And it's not just a meditation, it's breath work. It's a centering, a real grounding, and then the meditation. And it's a little over a half an hour. And I didn't really have a set routine at night. I write out my gratitudes, but I didn't really have anything where I was really bookending the night. I would write out my gratitudes and that was it. And I found that sometimes I would just lie there really awake. I would be on my phone still a little bit. That would kind of keep me awake. And it was Lamar, Coach L Fit, who was a part of the league for a while there, supporting the league. And he was the one that told me about an hour before bed, I had to let my electronics go. And as soon as he said that to me, I was a little lost for my nighttime routine. What's that going to look like? And because I didn't have anything else in place for when I couldn't sleep and I was lying there awake. And it was Maureen, the hypno lady, Maureen Pisani. She came in and I did some hypnotherapy sessions with her and she sent me the recordings. And now I end my night with Maureen's voice, with her hypnotherapy recordings. And I go to sleep with that. And I'll tell you the difference I notice in the quality of my sleep, having that nighttime routine, that healthy nighttime routine, and then my meditation in the morning, as opposed to when I don't listen to the hypnosis. It's absolutely incredible. I wake up so refreshed because I've done that. I've bookended like that. I've done that hypnosis. I've gotten that visualization and all of that positivity from Maureen. And then I wake up and I do my meditation and I start the day off fresh. It's been incredible, that journey.
Well, also a celebration. I mean, whether listening to something like Insight Timer is an app that I like a lot, and Maureen is amazing. But also just saying what even if you're laying in bed, just getting a routine of saying what are 1 to 2 things that went well that day, just to end it so that you actually appreciated and summarized or processed the good things that happen. Because we can go by and just do the thing, but we didn't even take time to really celebrate or to acknowledge that was good, or I did go out of my way to reach out to somebody as a random act of kindness, or I did take time to pause. And so we reinforce those things that serve us well with that self-compassion. And then the more we recognize that, then we set them into place with habits. And then we maybe look at the triggers that maybe took us out. And so sometime in maybe the New Year's resolution or every quarter that you review yourself, what is working, what's not working, what are some things that need to be tweaked. And those are just little tweaks that you find that help us just shutting it down. And I find on the weekend, I shut down on mostly Sundays as a day that I invite somebody over for dinner, or I shut down my technology. I don't do it because it gives me freedom. I have creative writing. It's just taking a day to technology, just shut it down. Yeah. And I realize I can think better. And I actually go back to the meditation. I struggle to slow down because I'm a single mother raising all my kids and working. And I paid to take a meditation course for a year. I paid a lot of money to do it. So I would do it. And I fought and I struggled with it. And then I realized once I started learning how to slow down in my body, I actually got a lot more done. It was really amazing, and it was something that really was, it was medicine, and for me to have better relationships. And I showed up kinder. I was more empathetic. It was just incredible. Just like you say, breath work, but also taking time to say 30 minutes out of your day. You're kidding me? But if you do it, you'll free up so much more and have a richer life, because it's really about the end of the road that we want to say is our life full, not just getting stuff done.
Yeah. And the same thing, when I look at that 30 minutes, I think to myself, how do I feel when I don't do it? Right? That's my motivation. It's like, how do I feel when I don't do it? I know that I feel off balance. I know that I'm short with people. I know that I'm not in a calm, peaceful place, in the place I want to be. So I'm going to get up and do that every day to stay in that calm place. And just noticing how people interact with me outside, in the outside world, right? If I go out and I'm driving and I haven't meditated, we'll notice, like the kids will be in the car with me too. We'll notice, well, all of a sudden there's lots of people honking at us, or angry people on the road, or, we couldn't find a parking spot at the shopping mall. We had to park, rows and rows back. But when I've meditated, there's always a parking spot right close. There's nobody's honking at us. There's no traffic. Everything's smooth sailing. And it's your energy. It's what you're calling in when you're in that state, and when you're in that peaceful state and you're in that state of mind. So I remind myself of that. Like, that's the place I want to be in. That's why I get up to do this every morning. I love that.
Well, I just like to touch on, this is a really big deal for me, because I believe that nutrition is so critical to help manage stress, things to come and things that are present to enjoy. But there's many cores to basic health. But I believe that if we start focusing on the nutrition of eating, I call real living food without all the stress but it helps you sleep better. It helps you to have energy to exercise. It helps you to be able to drink the water. It helps you to be able to deal with the toxic overload. I believe that the nutrition is the foundation and the tipping point to get us all in motion. And I know that I've taught it for 22 years, but if we don't have our health, we don't have any choices. We can't be the present with our children. We can't be present with our relationships, but we have to realize that it's something that's essential, and we have a lot of control of that, but we don't want to wait to the wake up calls.
No, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? The point, do we wait for it's either pain or pleasure? And I know with me just being alcohol free the last 30 days, it's I always woke up every day with a headache, and that was normal for me. And then for the first 2.5 weeks of not drinking, I woke up with a headache every day. And during the time I was doing this, I was doing a course for 30 days. So you were getting the knowledge, you were getting the tools, and you were getting the support as well. So I wasn't doing it alone. And, they were raising things like, well, maybe your alcohol's been masking the fact that you have got something wrong with your head or something, because you're getting headaches every single day. But then might have been the beginning of last week, I went, I'm not getting headaches anymore. They've actually stopped. And then I was talking to my daughter how much my skin's cleared up. My complexion's really good, and I don't have all the, the bloated stuff around the chin that I normally would and things like that. And I said to her, do you know how many thousands of dollars I have spent on face creams and things like that? My whole 49 years, and you're telling me all I had to do was, and because I've given up sugar as well, so sugar, carbs, dairy, and alcohol. And just in 1 month, the difference I have been feeling within my body is unbelievable.
Congratulations. That's so exciting. So proud.
Yeah.
I was just amazing.
I just didn't want to take all this stuff into the next decade. Do you know what I mean? It's like I said, that thing of insanity. I just keep doing it and doing it. Yet I know that I then go into those self-loathing and all those other places where you just pull yourself down and you shame yourself. And you go, well, this isn't serving me. And it isn't in alignment with the rest of my life that I'm choosing. So there becomes a time, I think, when they go, do you know what? That's actually a poison. And they've masked it with sugar so it tastes good.
You were aware, you woke up to that, you weren't sleepwalking through the buffering, the pain, or wishing that things could be different, or, because we realized, what is it serving? And you did it, for probably many reasons, but it takes a lot. But once you realize, now going through those 2 weeks of headaches, now you go get through the hard stuff, but now you have the reward, and now it's harder to go back and say, we're done.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But also just really, just with the joy. I have so much joy in my life, and it was never about alcohol. My joy is being outside in the day. My joy is doing Zumba. My joy is 99 things during the day that had nothing to do with alcohol. But then I was like, oh, but who am I without it? Like it was all that unpacking of all that as well. And even tonight, I've got a girlfriend who's having her 50th, and she said, oh, come over for mojitos. And I said, no. I said, I'll come and support you, but I won't be drinking mojitos. And she was like, oh, you're still doing that? And I'm like, yeah, I am, because it's my choice.
That's a lot of bravery. That's a big, you made a decision, drew a line in the sand.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I did. I put that line in the sand, and I'm like, this isn't in alignment with me anymore.
But that's freeing for you. Sometimes we think it's so hard, but you made that decision. Now it's not, it's just free. Frees up your energy. You have to decide every day, am I going to have sugar? If I'm going to have an alcohol, if I'm going to do the thing. But if you just say, we're not doing it anymore, and then now you're just like, what a relief.
You're absolutely right. You are. And even I said that to my kids, because I want them to go sugar-free for the month. And they're just like, oh, well, we can do it if there's nothing in the pantry. And I'm like, exactly. So and of course I went for a hike a couple of days ago, and they text me, can we make cookies? I'm like, I knew there was still some stuff in the pantry, obviously the ingredients to do it, but I'm like, okay, so at least they're not store-bought. But yeah, it's all about balance. And I think it's a lot easier too, that when you reach that conclusion on your own, like I did, and you're not getting forced to do it. I didn't have to wait for that pain point of something going wrong with my health to go, oh, well, now I need to make it. And and I would have been maybe more resentful towards it. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to me having the recognition of, this just doesn't serve me anymore.
Absolutely. And as the time passes, you come to a point where you don't even think about it anymore. You don't need it. You don't even think about it. I stopped drinking, in 2002, I think. 2002. It's been a long time. It's been almost 20 years. And I will have the odd glass of wine for a toast at a fancy dinner. the odd glass of champagne for a toast, but I'm telling you, it's maybe 5 times a year that I have a sip of anything just to toast a special occasion. Not even on New Year's will I do that every year. Sometimes I do if I'm out somewhere, sometimes I don't. And it's not second nature to me. I just choose not to. I don't even think about it anymore. And people know that I don't drink. So if I go out to a restaurant with anyone, they know that I'm not sharing a bottle of wine. I'm just not into that. And I don't miss it at all.
No. And I think
Not
it's
at
just
all.
getting clear on your values, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you know what your values are, it makes it a lot easier to then choose them and live them every day.
Yeah, and you know your why. So at the time I gave it up because in 2001, 2002, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And one of the things that they told me at the time was that alcohol and caffeine made it worse. And right then and there, that was it. I gave up caffeine, I gave up alcohol, and I'll drink herbal teas now, but I don't drink coffee. It's very rare that I even drink what's called a decaffeinated tea because it still has caffeine in it. Right. And that was my why. That was my motivation because I knew what anxiety felt like. I knew what a panic attack felt like. Yeah. And I thought, is this drink worth feeling like that? No, it's not. It's not.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it too, like we're on the tribe of giants. We're here to help giants support that, because to have a community that we're in, it helps so much to be able to have a good perspective, to encourage each other with the changes that we feel aligned to. But it's hard to do things by ourselves, right? It's hard to do things by ourselves until we want to be able to have this automatic habits, because that's what really takes. And it takes a while. And we never fully arrive. And I think that if we can think of our life that we don't arrive anywhere, we're not trying, but we're just navigating through it, but making some fine lines like you both have done, whether for different reasons, but for the ultimate reason that you want to live life to the highest and to not have those things rob you of energy to do what you're called to do in any area of your life. And I think, I don't know if there was a comment there. I didn't know what that comment was, Alyssa.
Oh, yeah. It said, I don't call my eating habits as a diet because it is my life choice, not a negative thing I must do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the diet, just take the word diet out, because that means you're trying to finish something.
Yeah.
And it's really a lifestyle of when you get, some habits underway, you rise to a different place to see it a different way. And then you go a little higher, maybe dip it down, but you're still moving forward and you're never done because you're always managing the stress. We get older, we'll have to go through a lot of things. But hopefully we've had some things we taught tonight to anchor some of these things that can be in line, or to figure out with some ideas that can work with you in your own life, and then tweak them as you go along in life, and be very mindful so that we're aware that when we are living good lives and having joy, that we can go back to say we want more of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you remember the that thing you posted last week, and what was going to be the hardest for a lot of people, and I know I answered it, was asking for help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember that if we can maybe just dispel that myth as well, because of the tribe, we're 3,500 people, that we are there and everybody is there to support each other. And it's a safe place to put your hand up. It's a safe place to go, hey, I need help with this. Or, can I have some advice for this? Or has anyone ever had this experience before? And I think that's why we're so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, you look in the Facebook groups when people want help or hurting, people, it's by nature we pour in to help somebody that's hurting or needs some help. But it's very vulnerable feeling that you don't have it all together, but to say I don't have it all together, and then everybody just loves that because we can relate. We all have it together all the time.
Yeah, and it's good to know that somebody else is experiencing the same thing or has experienced the same thing, that you're not alone in that experience, right? We all sometimes sit back and think I'm the only one experiencing this. No, this doesn't happen to anybody else. And it's comforting to know that that other people are experiencing the same thing and feeling the same way.
Yeah, and that's the value in sharing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the time, my dears, and I'm going to ask you all for last comments before we sign off here. Does anybody Anyone have any last thoughts?
Well, I would just always say to people, you're stronger than you think you are. And if you are losing your way or you are getting overwhelmed, maybe just write down all the things that you have done in your life. Write down the stuff that you did and you thought was hard and you couldn't do it, and add that to your toolbox. So when you come up against these new things, go and look in your toolbox and remind yourself of what you've already done.
Mm-hmm. Add those up. I just end with my big thing is make your health top priority, because if there's no other place to live than in the good health, right? And when you have health, I always end my presentation with my wellness talks is when you have health, anything is possible. And when you don't, nothing else really matters.
Absolutely. I love that. And so I would urge anyone who's just coming in now and who hasn't caught the entire show to go and listen to this entire show, because there were so many different nuggets throughout from both Alyssa and Dr. Smart about how to harness stress, how to change that dialogue of stress, and how to change that into embracing joy and wellness in your life. I thank you all for listening today, for joining in with us today. I'm so grateful to have Dr. Smart and Alyssa in the studio with us today. And I ask you to join in with us next week when we talk about how your mind controls how much money you make. And that episode is with our special guest co-host, Maureen Pisani. So we're going to wish you all a wonderful day. Join in next week, my friends. Goodbye.